We have an army, but there are no weapons. So how can the army protect its population?
We're fed up with the embargo. France manipulates us a lot. We're a sovereign country. Our army should defend us, but they don't have the opportunity.
The embargo bans weapon supplies to the CAR unless approved by a UN committee. The UN says the sanctions are aimed at ensuring imported weapons do not end up in the hands of militia. But many locals argue that the move has impacted the country's efforts to protect and defend itself.
People are being killed and the UN is aware of it, but they have done nothing about it. We want the CAR to regain its sovereignty so that our armed forces can be deployed throughout the Central African territory to ensure its security.
The UN Secretary Council is due to decide on Thursday whether or not to renew the sanctions. Tuli Shabalala, CGTN.
Cameroon's main opposition leader, Maurice Kamto, and scores of his supporters have been arrested. They're accused of participating in illegal protests against President Paul Biya. Police officers allegedly used live ammunition to disperse protesters. At least 6 people have been wounded. It's the latest in a wave of political unrest that's rocked the West African country since elections in October. Opposition parties have cried foul, claiming electoral fraud when Kamto lost to Biya, who has ruled Cameroon since 1982. His camp has denied all allegations of electoral fraud. Let's now head over to Zimbabwe. The government there has given an assurance that it will thoroughly investigate allegations of misconduct by the security services. The army has been accused of several forms of abuse, such as rape, during a brutal crackdown in the wake of violent protests earlier this month.
Mavuku, a high-density suburb on the eastern fringe of Harare, was one of the hotspots of trouble during the fuel price riots earlier this month.
It may seem as if things are back to normal, but many here remain on edge, fearful that there could be a recurrence of the violence that was witnessed here and the crackdown that followed it.
Residents claim armed men in military fatigues carried out night raids and indiscriminately beat people up. But the army says they are rogue officers and criminals impersonating soldiers. It's opened up hotlines for the public to report them. Zimbabwe's government has come under intense international pressure and has pledged to investigate allegations of misconduct. The Justice Minister has promised the law will be allowed to take its course. An umbrella body of civic society groups has documented over 1,000 abuses since January 14th, ranging from killings and torture to arbitrary detention, including that of children. It's welcomed the government's commitment, but wants the culture of impunity dating back to the late 1990s to end.
Since then, we have been having these episodes where the security state agents would go out, blatantly violate people's rights, use excessive force, but none of them has been held accountable to date. So we hope that if they are sincere about this, and this is happening in the wake of the recently concluded Mohlande Commission, we are hoping that it will be treated with the sincerity it requires.
Beyond bringing perpetrators to book, government should also ensure justice for those who were on the receiving end of the crackdown.
It is expected that the government will put in place a mechanism to ensure reparation, rehabilitation, and compensation for those that have been victims of military and police brutality.
Though calm has been restored, security remains on alert to quell any unrest that may flare up, especially as tensions over rising prices and shortages of basic goods like bread continue to run high. Farai Makutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
To South Sudan now, and the United Nations says more than 190,000 people are still sheltering in its compounds across the country. A peace deal between President Salva Kiir and opposition groups was signed in September, but many displaced South Sudanese remain sceptical about the peace process and are unwilling to return home. CGTN's Patrick Hoyt reports.
190,000 internally displaced people are living in 6 UN camps across South Sudan. Many don't believe the current peace deal will hold. A peace deal between warring factions collapsed in Juba in 2006, and they fear that a repeat is possible. And many that say their livelihoods were totally destroyed during the war are afraid of starting life from scratch outside these protective camps. South Sudan's government is urging the UN to encourage those still in camps to return to their homes. The government says it doesn't have funding to repatriate internally displaced persons and will have to rely on the UN and other non-governmental organizations for it. The United Nations mission in South Sudan says it encourages voluntary return home of internally displaced people. Only about 17,000 have voluntarily left the camps. So for now, the UN continues to spend millions of dollars providing basic needs to those living there. There are also still armed groups opposed to the current peace deal that are fighting the government. The violence is discouraging some displaced people from going home. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
Medical practitioners from China have conducted free medical examinations and counselling services for elderly people in Botswana. It's the 38th anniversary of medical aid in the country. The 15th China medical team provided medical checkups at the Theopathy Elderly Care Association of Mogoditshane. They gave advice on how to regulate blood pressure and sugar levels. The doctors also educated the elderly locals on how to prevent disease by keeping a healthy lifestyle.
You are here to come for help. We are very much happy about those doctors from China. We are very, very happy indeed for them to come and help us for free.
To Nigeria now, where stand-up comedy is growing in popularity in a crowded entertainment marketplace. It competes for attention from Nigerian music and the Nollywood movie industry, with A-list comedians earning as much as $1 million a year. CGTN's Samson O'Malley reports now from Jos.
This comedy show, Rhythm of Laughter, attracts Nigeria's A-list stand-up comedians.
Some people return and say we're out of recession and lie.
Jos usually holds the first major comedy show of the year in the country. Fans at this event pay as much as $600 for a front row table.
There's no comedy concert that is well organized that don't have crowd. You see, people come not just themselves, they come with their family. And I feel the situation of this country right now must have motivated that spirit of people coming in mass to laugh.
For many, paying to let off some stress and forget Nigeria's problems is worth every penny.
Laughing is a good thing. I mean, they say when you laugh, you don't grow old. So I don't want to get old. I want to keep the smile.
Hearing them crack jokes, I think that will actually ease me of stress. So that's why I'm actually here, and I pay the money to come and be happy.
Across Nigeria, top comedians have enjoyed a spike in their earnings.
The creative industry in Nigeria, which includes stand-up comedy, is only second to the oil sector in its contribution to the development of Nigeria's economy.
So it's becoming an attractive career choice.
I earn more money more than even the Nigerian actors from Nollywood. Forget what you see on screen. I've gone to places where some of them, my fans from the Nollywood industry will ask you for money. There's money in comedy when you're funny.
With comedy, I got married. With comedy, by the grace of God, I'm living in a comfortable place by God's help. With comedy, I'm taking care of my son. I don't do anything. I don't have any business anywhere. It's with comedy. So anybody that tells you comedy is not lucrative, that person is not creative.
While some Nigerians see comedy as a way of relieving stress, comedians are also happily smiling to the bank. Samson O'Malley, CGTN, Jos, Nigeria.
Members of the United Nations mission in Mali have paid tribute to 10 Chadian peacekeepers killed at the weekend. Insurgents targeted the mission's camp in the Kidai region on Sunday.
The deadly attack took place on Sunday. In addition to the 10 peacekeepers killed in the early morning ambush, 25 others were injured. Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta commended the UN troops for their efforts to maintain peace in the country.
This fight, which you lead in the name of humanity, has led to the loss of young lives. They had barely arrived on Mali soil where they were supposed to serve the cause of peace.
The head of the UN mission in Mali has also saluted the peacekeepers.
They will remain an example for all of us. Their sacrifice inspires us to fight even harder to end crisis in Mali.
The commander of the UN force in Mali has thanked Chad for its contribution to the stabilization of the Sahel.
In the name of the entire personnel of the MINUSMA, civilians, policemen and military, I tell you this, your sacrifice will not be in vain. You fell with pride while providing a robust response, inflicting significant damage to the enemy.
A peace deal between the government and armed groups was signed in 2015. Its implementation has, however, been slow, leading to ongoing attacks in the center and north of the country. Richard Solenta reporting for CGTN News.
Well, we're going to a break now. We've got all the business news coming up, including Kenya adopts a 2-day no-car plan to decongest the capital, Nairobi. And in business, leaders in South Africa are less confident about economic prospects for 2019.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
There's more to this place than just glorious landscapes. There's more to it than just, say, Table Mountain or glorious, endless salt flats. There's more to it than countries that are home to some of the deepest mines in the world. There is so much more to this place, even if it is home to some of the finest diamonds on the planet. It is the sheer diversity of the people who call Southern Africa home, and the relentless drive to make it a better place that make it so special. And we know that because this too is home. No one knows Southern Africa like we do. CGTN, see the difference.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars in Casablanca, among the crowds in Cairo,
who come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
Along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Kenya now, where car owners in Nairobi have been urged to use public transport on Wednesdays and Saturdays. The move is part of a plan by the government to promote 2 car-free days to reduce traffic congestion in the city. It's also part of a bid to attract investors. The move will allow authorities to trial run the new bus rapid transport system. However, some civil society organisations have criticised the initiative as poorly thought through and impractical. PricewaterhouseCoopers recently released its global CEO survey in Davos, in Switzerland. The annual index assesses corporate expectations for economic growth in 2019. This year, nearly 1,400 CEOs and 35 industries took part in the survey. CGTN's Uche Okoronkwo has more.
South African CEOs are a lot less confident about the global economy this year compared to last year.
There's definitely been a reduction in confidence about the global economy, and we can very clearly see a trend if we look at the last couple of years that we've done the survey, how the CEO confidence and actual outcomes of GDP growth tends to move together.
So it is not unique to South Africa CEOs, and in fact, for global CEOs, the drop in sentiment about prospects for the world economy over the next 12 months is even more pronounced.
There are some key issues that South African CEOs are concerned about, though.
Things such as social unrest, if we look at South Africa, political instability, global trade relations and instability and uncertainty around that. And then over the longer term, the role that new technology and things like artificial intelligence might play in terms of their businesses and how it might impact the jobs that they can provide for their own people.
It appears that CEOs in charge of South African businesses have adopted a wait-and-see approach.
Currently, the Ramaphosa effect has not translated into tangible solutions or initiatives that we've seen benefiting the economy. Unemployment remains challenged and at record levels.
While there seems to be an improvement in sentiment, it's about putting money where your mouths are, and the CEOs aren't doing that just yet. I'm Uche Okoronkwo for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
German automobile manufacturer Mercedes-Benz has revealed plans to assemble vehicles in Egypt. The announcement has been hailed in the North African nation. Sharp fluctuations in the market and limits on foreign currency transfers had previously forced the auto giant out of the country. Adel El-Mahrouhi has more.
Mercedes-Benz says it's closely cooperating with the Egyptian government, looking into the possibility of starting a new assembly line. The entire Egyptian government, including President El-Sisi, are keen to give Mercedes all the facilitation it needs. A comeback from such a leading company will definitely reflect on the economy.
Mercedes say Egypt is a safe market to invest in. Promising economy has well-trained and cheap workforce. That move will encourage more companies to come and produce in Egypt. If things move well, I think Mercedes will consider manufacturing new models in Egypt for the Arab and African market.
Mercedes used to assemble cars in Egypt back in 2009 by the complete knockdown method, which was a revolutionary step for the North African country. By 2015, however, political unrest, currency crisis and economic challenges have driven the company away.
When Mercedes left, competitiveness decreased. Its return will increase competitiveness with big companies that will enrich the market and will reflect benefit to the Egypt customer, because prices will definitely decrease. We have supplement industries that will benefit. More jobs will be created.
Mercedes-Benz Egypt has 4 authorized retailers and a massive spare parts warehouse. It has partnerships with many local automotive supporting industries, which makes it offer around 1,000 direct and indirect jobs.
No firm confirmation about Egypt's limousine assembly line has been made yet. Mercedes has not set a time frame. Experts believe the company will resort to a local partner for assembly and will probably create the car plant near the Suez Canal Economic Zone. Adel El-Mahrouhi, CGTN, Cairo.
A delegation of Chinese officials are in Washington for negotiations on the ongoing trade tensions between the US and China. Led by China's Vice Premier Liu He, the delegation features more than 10 of China's top leaders, including the governor of the People's Bank of China, Yi Gang. The world's 2 largest economies have been exchanging tit-for-tat tariffs on more than $360 billion in trade. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin has said that he expects to make significant progress during these talks. On to Lesotho, where years of political turmoil have weakened the economy and increased poverty in the small southern African kingdom. The situation worsened last year after the US threatened to expel Lesotho from the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Culinary has more from the capital, Maseru.
Lesotho's new leadership has helped to calm political turmoil in the country. It's also convinced US legislators to keep Lesotho as a participant of AGOA. This factory in Maseru is one of hundreds of factories that produce garments solely for the American market.
We see that AGOA is still important for us because America is a huge market in the world, and they import a lot of the textile protected. And the Lesotho benefit because AGOA is duty-free and no quotas. So actually for us quite easily to do this business because we can competition with other countries. We will benefit from the duties to make our quotation be lower competitive with other countries to win the orders there.
AGOA allows African countries to export goods to the United States duty-free. The US agreement has helped Lesotho become a key clothing manufacturing hub in southern Africa.
Lesotho seems to be safe for now. It has secured its place under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, but it is concerned about what happens after the next 7 or 8 years when AGOA expires. Over 45,000 people are hired in this industry here in Lesotho.
Okay, actually we have now we employ plus minus 1,000 people here. And then our wages now is 2,000 rand per month, per person. So almost like $140 now. And then to us, is the skills quietly is one issue to limit us because like we say, we always want to increase Africa workers' productivity there. So this is the limit basing on the African workers' skills. So this is also important for us in the future. We will spend more energy, more time, even more costing, basing focus on the increase our productivity.
But competition is tough and the profit margins are thin as more countries push to increase their manufacturing capabilities. US President Donald Trump also wants clothing to be made in America.
I only get $5 from the American buyer, and these $5 include the raw materials. Even the raw material I purchase from China include the delivery costing. We transfer from transport to here, and then we also include our labors to manufacture at the plants. And then we have to include the transport with delivery to the port in Durban. So all the totally costing we get it, we only get almost like 30% of their retail price. And if CMT labors only just I think almost only 10% of that. They cannot compete with us because how much with their wages there. Actually, who built this business rules is America. Okay, they built that all the world market game rules there. And now they want to stop that. They want to produce everything by themselves. Impossible.
The Lesotho government is working together with business to find alternative markets to support its clothing manufacturing industry. AGOA will expire in 2025 and it's unlikely the US will renew the agreement for a third time. Sumitra Nadu, CGTN, Maseru, Lesotho.
To Burkina Faso now, where the Chinese embassy has donated support kits to youth entrepreneurship programs. The donation aims to encourage young people to start their own enterprises to advance development in the country.
The kit, worth $60 each, comprised of professional tools and raw materials. They were distributed to 40 of the best students in several training centers in Burkina Faso. The enterprise aims to encourage Burkinabe youth to engage in business.
This fund has 3 objectives. To begin with, we must lay the foundation in the technical field in order to train highly prized masters who possess the expertise and know-how, reinvigorate the enthusiasm of young Burkinabes for vocational training and reassess the prospects in technical occupations in order to trigger industrialization, which nowadays is a fundamental requirement for a country's development.
The initiative seeks to catalyze the lack of employment opportunities to the young budding entrepreneurs, offering skills and equality in the industrial sector. The move has been highly welcomed by many beneficiaries of the initiative.
I was trained in bakery and pastry. As I was the first in the class, I received materials such as a scale, a board, a bucket, and other materials to work with, as well as a refrigerator. It is with great pleasure that I receive these materials. I know it will bring me a lot of benefits. I will start gradually and hope to grow in the future.
We thank China for their support. Now that China has thought of us by offering us equipment, it will help us a lot. In computer science, for example, without a computer, there is nothing you can do.
According to data from the National Employment and Informal Sector Survey, youth unemployment in Burkina Faso has reached 6.5%. The investment by Chinese partners will seek to foster a pioneering focus on the need to develop skills and training.
These are
the best training centers scattered throughout the country that have been chosen to reward and encourage. So we thank the Chinese partners who have agreed to invest in this effort. Through this donation, self-employment is developing not only for the beneficiaries, but also for the young Burkinabe who have not had the opportunity to obtain these kits, but who can be employed by those who did.
The Chinese embassy in the country has revealed its government will provide its counterparts with a donation for vocational training equipment amounting to approximately $450,000. This seeks to establish progressive growth and offer equality among the youth in the country. Saram Kabana, CGTN.
Well, we are going to a short break. Don't go away. Lots more to come, including... We show you how disadvantaged young Moroccans are being empowered with culinary skills.
Join us in global business and see Africa through our eyes.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Canada, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
In Morocco, young people from the city of Saleh in the country's northwest have been offered free training at a cookery school. The project aims to provide young people from disadvantaged backgrounds with culinary skills so that they become employable and self-sufficient.
This is the Shamsi Culinary Arts School in Saleh. Around 50 young people will spend 2 years here learning how to cook up a storm. It's funded by the National Initiative for Human Development and various charities.
Thanks to the association, we could save the young people of Saleh. Currently, some of the young people don't feel like they have a future.
The first year covers the basics, and in their second year, students choose which cuisine to specialize in. One of the most popular is Moroccan cuisine, which includes pastry making.
When I had nothing to do and stayed home all the time, I had no idea about my future. But after my registration in the school to learn French pastry, I have dreams and goals to achieve now.
The apprentices have a great willingness to learn. I noticed a big improvement in their work from the beginning until now. They can cook and bake alone. We help so that they can work and start a career.
The school has helped keep many disadvantaged youths off the streets. After they graduate, the school also helps to place the new chefs in hotels and restaurants. Laura Walubengo, CGTN.
To South Africa now, where archaeologists have rediscovered a lost city city using cutting-edge laser technology. Researchers from Wits University have recreated the ancient city, which is believed to have existed near to Johannesburg back in the 15th century.
South African archaeologists have rediscovered the ancient city of Culinary. For decades, researchers have been studying the site near Johannesburg. Now, cutting-edge laser technology known as light detection and ranging, LiDAR, has accelerated the study of the ruins.
LiDAR data is enabling us to do is actually to map and track what was happening in these towns because there's no written record of them. So we're basically rediscovering their use. And what this means is filling in a huge historical gap, especially for Southern Africa.
The thick vegetation in the area led the team to commission LiDAR laser technology.
Scanning machine that sends out laser lights, and it basically bombards the landscape. I mean, billions and billions of pulses of laser light, something like 400 or 500 per square meter, just all the time coming out. And as soon as each pulse hits an object, any solid object, a bird or a leaf or a tree or the ground, it reflects straight back to the machine, and then the machine can figure out where that interception took place in 3 dimensions.
Culinary is believed to date back to the 15th century. The laser technology has enabled archaeologists to recreate digital images of homesteads that house the city's estimated 10,000 Swana-speaking people.
If you create a game and kids can play around with the context of knowing that their heritage and having a sense of what was being there and the sort of like housing structure, the architecture which was there.
One of the most enlightening thing is us being able to understand what we were doing in our past, you know. It gives us a more broader idea of the people of Southern Africa, who they were and the types of activities that they did, because you can now rediscover that activity line and just general interactions within the society.
Culinary is believed to have been destroyed in the 19th century after years of conflict. Noel Mokugu, CGTN.
To Egypt now, where festivities have been building up ahead of celebrations to mark the Chinese New Year. Egypt's ancient landmark building, the Citadel of Sahel Eddin, was adorned with a beautiful Chinese red costume as part of the Spring Festival celebrations. The Chinese Cultural Center in Cairo organized the event, which brought together dignitaries from both the Egyptian and Chinese communities. Those in attendance were treated to music from artists from both countries. Well, we're going to a short break now. We've got all the sports news coming up, including South Africa's Proteas are